Hey guys, what's happening? So with One World Under Doom officially kicking off, we finally reached the point where Sorcerer Supreme Doom, or Emperor Doom, because Doom really likes that Emperor title, is taking action after everything he's been working on for the past few years. And we'll talk about how as we continue to cover this, but if you want to get more insight on the events leading up to One World Under Doom, as well as some of the stories I'll be referencing, I have links in the description for our coverage on those stories, like Death of Doctor Strange, Return of Doctor Strange, Blood Hunt, Venom War, and more. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so going into this, the first thing we're shown is the current state of the world, by way of some notifications and news articles that mention different countries being on the brink of war. You got starvation in places that are being denied international aid, daywalker vampires that are still lingering around since Blood Hunt, as well as access to higher education being well out of the reach of 90% of low-income people worldwide. And these examples that we're seeing here, this all lines up with what we saw Sorcerer Supreme Doom tell the Avengers just a few months ago, when he pointed out to them how each member of the Avengers could end some type of global crisis. And at the time, he even went as far as to show each of them how this could have been done. And for the most part, the Avengers just considered this to be a thought experiment that Doom was using them to do, but there was a lot more that Doom had going into this. And along with these news articles that are shown, we also get a letter coming from the Latvian press office that's set for immediate release that goes on to say 6 months ago, Dr. Victor Von Doom became Sorcerer Supreme, then disappeared behind Latvia's closed borders. What has only been a few months without Doom's benevolent guidance feels to many like a lifetime. Still, only a few recognize this time for what it is. The calm before the storm. And I like how this mentions still only a few recognize this time for what it is. Because if we look back over the months since Blood Hunt, after Doom had became Sorcerer Supreme, a lot of the heroes believed that during this time, Doom was preparing for something big. And we even saw this with Reed Richards in Fantastic Four issue 28, with him trying to learn magic so he can get into Latveria and see what Doom was doing. But we knew from things like Incredible Hulk issue 800, when Doom captured Thunderbolt Ross, that Doom had already been setting things in place, so that when he became Sorcerer Supreme, he could go on to use that title and that power to execute the next stages of his plan. But Doom was working on this well before Blood Hunt. And I would even say that there were signs of this back in 2022, following the death of Doctor Strange, when Steven had made provisions for the title to go to Clea, because as soon as that happened, Doom was at the Sanctum Sanctorum like, nah, it should have been me. Because like we saw even back then, when Doom left, he told Clea, this isn't over. So Doom's been working on this, and that's basically why when we've seen him show up in all the different tie-ins leading up to this point with One World Under Doom kicking off, he's either been making silent preparations, delegating certain tasks to others like Spider-Man, or personally stopping anyone from disrupting what was to come. So yeah, just because Doom's been quiet, most of the world and the other heroes, they think that he hasn't been doing anything. And only a handful actually know that Doom's been making his rounds, like Storm, Spider-Man, Reed, and Sue, but we've reached the point to where now it doesn't even matter. Because now Doom's given a speech announcing to the world how things are going to change moving forward, with Doom announcing a new grand united Latveria. In the way that he frames it, it's like no one else could do this but Doom. And he tells him like anyone else would have been corrupted by greed or power or money, but not Doom because he's above all that. And this is being broadcasted everywhere, that there's a screen or a phone or a radio so that everyone can get this message. And he goes on to tell the people here how this is good for them. Because he goes on to say, to those watching this broadcast, I know it must be shocking for you. Changes to power hierarchies often are. And I know what you now expect. Perhaps slave labor, building eternal monuments to the glory of Doom. Or perhaps death squads, yes? To hunt down the enemies of Doom, finally ending the threat of the dangerous and hated Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four. No, for in the face of his unprecedented power, Doom is not petty. Doom is humble. Doom is magnanimous. And Doom brings his rule with but 2 small decrees. War between nations is of course outlawed. There shall be no conflict between Latveria's provinces. Which right off the bat is Doom ending war. Because even like we saw in the news alerts where this started off, these conflicts between different countries, they brought about an insane number of casualties. So Doom's putting a stop to that. And even as this message is going out, we see different governments around the world who are not having it. And for the second thing that Doom mentions here that's improving people's lives, he goes on to say the second gift is this: you are all citizens of Earth, yet you all have not, until now, been treated with the same baseline respect that demands. You have struggled under inequality. You have been made to go without medicine, without knowledge. You have been made to pay for basic care, or you have been made to die. but there are certain privileges to being Latvian, and there's a certain minimum standard of living that Latveria bestows and insists upon for all her citizens. Every nation will now not only care for the bodies of her citizens through free and truly universal healthcare, but it will also care for their minds through local elite tier education, all the way to postgraduate levels for everyone who chooses to avail themselves of it. No longer shall the highest levels of attainment be preserved only for those who can afford emigration, much less schooling. These ideas, these easy inaugurable wins for civilization, are not new. They are expensive, yes, and complex, yes, but they were never impossible. They have simply been left on the table through greed and moral cowardice. And Doom suffers from neither affliction. And Doom says he's not petty. But while this is going on and the world is watching, Doom calls out the different countries and provinces who aren't on board. And while they're watching or listening to his announcement, Doom has them all handled in real time. And we're shown this as this dude's blood is just splattered on the television. And over at the White House, there's no longer an American flag that's up, and instead it's the Latvian flag. And in closing, Sorcerer Supreme Doom goes on to say, "A final note, Doom has left your old leaders in place, free to govern just as they have before, save for the responsibility of implementing my orders. Your day-to-day will not change, except for, as you have already seen, certain significant improvements. Note too that this transition is being implemented with the full support of your leaders. Doom is wisdom, Doom is power, Doom is prosperity, and only Doom can save you." End transmission. And so 30 minutes after this, we head over to the Baxter building with the heroes who are basically having an emergency meeting. And among those who are here, you got the Fantastic Four along with Alicia Masters, Thor, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Brain Drain, both Captain Americas, Nancy Whitehead, Spider-Man, Squirrel Girl, Storm, Scarlet Witch, and Vision. And some of the first things they discuss here are the possibilities of Doom using magic or mind control as a way to have taken over the different capitals around the world. And at one point, Squirrel Girl asks a very valid question, because she's like, if that's the case, why aren't we affected too? But the whole mind control thing is quickly ruled out when Wanda tells them that she doesn't detect any magical influence, either here or around the world's capitals. And it's also mentioned here how even Wakanda has welcomed Doom, which I imagine is a byproduct of what we saw in the Black Panther Blood Hunt tie-ins when Shuri reached out to Doom in hopes of getting his help, since Latveria was the safest place after Sundeath. But during this meeting, Captain Marvel gets a message from Black Widow, who then patches in Carol and the others to her surveillance feed, which immediately sends us to a message coming from Baron Zemo, where he says, "People of Earth, I, Baron Zemo, am reaching out using the same broadcast override Doom did. But unlike him, I will make it brief. Many of you don't like me, but don't worry. We in Hydra have long known we don't need your love to earn your respect. And if you know anything, know this. Neither Baron Zemo nor Hydra itself will ever be ruled over by anyone, much less by a rootless degenerate mongrel. The very idea is laughable. Doom playing at Emperor, a man whose ancestors never even earned themselves a homeland. My forces and I are on the edge of Latveria. The barrier surrounding it is permeable to us thanks to our superior Hydra technology. We now march on Doomstat. We march on Doom. And we will end this ridiculous charade once and for all. Hydra, move out." And just after Zemo gives this speech, Widow tells the others that she's gonna follow him and move in, only for her comms to go out in the middle of her saying this. So after hearing this, Tony's like, "Hey, how does that expression go? The enemy of my enemy is my friend?" Only for Steve to be like, "Never with these guys. Never with Hydra." And that has Tony like, "It was a joke, Cap. Damn." But they all end up coming to an agreement as far as what their next move should be, which is to head out to Latveria, meet up with Widow, so they can take care of Zemo and Doom. But in the case of traveling from the Baxter building to Latveria, neither Strange or Wanda are able to help with this. So to get everyone there, Sue ends up making an invisible jet out of her shields, so they all can travel there quickly and undetected. And it makes for a really cool moment, because to me it just seems like Sue really doesn't get to shine like this that often. And once they're in Latveria, Ben tries to take a whack at the dome, and of course that doesn't work, because if it would've, I'm sure Reed would've thought of that months ago. But hey, sometimes you just gotta let Ben do his thing. But when this happens, a few things are pointed out here, cause for one, Widow shows up, and she tells them that hitting the barrier messed up her comms earlier. And Johnny points out here that the last time they hit Doom's barrier, him and the others got sent back in time. But that was the result of a different type of barrier that Doom was using back then. And Vision points out something very important here, because he's like, if this shield can prevent me from phasing through it, it must be stronger than what Baron Zemo encountered. And when he asked Wanda for her thoughts, She tells him it's something new. This is Sorcerer Supreme magic, and given a few weeks, she could perhaps find a spell that'll weaken it. But as we know, they just don't have that much time. And in the middle of this is here where they get another message coming from nearby. And once again, it's Baron Zemo. But this time around, the dude is singing a whole different tune. Cause now he's more or less like, oh, all that bad stuff I said about Doom, I didn't mean it. Doom is the best. Doom is what's best for the world. And Hydra is going to join him. And this leads to Baron Zemo giving orders to Hydra to help Doom's cause, with doing stuff like clearing mines out of contaminated areas, which at first has Tony like, nah, this is fake. And then Zemo gives out Hydra's daily verification code, and that just has Tony like, oh, or not, maybe this is real. And after tracing this message back to one of Hydra's floating islands, this now gives the heroes a close by location that they can attack, because they know Zemo's there, and he's not protected by Doom's barrier. So they all head up to the Hydra flying island, and of course, there's Hydra agents everywhere. So they gotta fight through all these guys. And through the course of this, Sam Wilson tells the others that Zemo's gotta be in the central tower, which now gives them a specific location to go for. So right away, Tony's on it. But as it turns out, the tower is sealed. It has no windows and just a single door at the bottom. So with hearing this, Carol Danvers is just like, of course it is. How much do you want to bet that door is armored, reinforced, and magically sealed? And that's when Tony's like, you don't become a billionaire by making bets you're gonna lose, Carol. But I'll do you one better. How much do you want to bet it's not going to make a difference? So for Tony, instead of trying to blast the door that was most likely armored, reinforced, and magically sealed, Tony just blasts the wall next to it, and then he's like, hey Zemo, quick tip for you. It's something Black Widow told me once. You can secure a door as much as you want, and Widow finishes it saying, but it's only ever as secure as the wall it's attached to. Aw, Tony, you were listening. So yeah, if anybody out there is trying to get through a magic door, listen to Widow. But at this point, now that they got eyes on Zemo, I mean, hands on Zemo, really, he's just going on like, how dare you? Hydra won't permit this, Doom won't permit this. And that just has Sam asking Zemo, like, since when did Hydra submit to Doom? So Zemo's explanation is like, what do you know of power? What do you know of ambition? And that's when Cap asks Zemo, what do you know of October 1st, 1945? And right there, Zemo's stuck. He doesn't have any kind of answer. So Steve Rogers just punches this dude's head off. And that's when we find out that this Baron Zemo was one of Doom's bots. So Steve goes on to say October 1st, 1945, that's when Hydra was founded by Baron Strucker. He never forgot it, so Zemo wouldn't have forgotten it either. And when Steve says this, I'm like, okay, well, what if it was Zemo, but he really didn't hear you? Because he didn't say that he didn't know, he just said, huh, and Cap just took his head off. So I'm just like, yeah, that could have been a mistake. But nonetheless, it was a Doom bot. So Reed ends up playing back the memories of this Doom bot, and that's where they see Sorcerer Supreme Doom kill Baron Zemo. So now, after seeing this, after making this discovery, this is their first bit of solid proof of Doom being caught in a lie. And it supports their suspicions of Doom having either mind controlled or just killed other world leaders just to replace them with Doom bots the same way. And now with them having this recording, they have proof. So Tony asks Reed to duplicate the broadcast override so he can share the truth with the rest of the world. And you know, I can only imagine, like, the people who are getting the fourth interruption at this point on their device or whatever, they're just kind of like, come on man, what is it now? But basically, this time around, Tony Stark tells everyone Dr. Doom killed Baron Zemo and replaced him with a Doom bot, and that basically Doom's gonna kill everyone else if he has his way. So don't believe him, don't believe his lies, the heroes are taking care of it, Iron Man out. But as soon as this happens, we jump over to Europe and we see a Hydra agent yelling, our leader is murdered, the Baron is dead, dead. So now your lives are forfeit too, which means now the Hydra agents, they're getting ready to take this out on the civilians. But as soon as we see this Hydra agent aim at this woman who's walking her kid, there's a bang. But it doesn't come from his gun because he looks down and he sees a hole in his chest with green smoke coming out of it, only for us to find out that he was shot by Sorcerer Supreme Doom, who's coming through a portal riding on his variant, who comes from a universe where dinosaurs didn't go extinct and instead they themselves evolved. So yeah, quite literally, this is one Doom riding another. But right away, Sorcerer Supreme Doom, who's also going by Emperor Doom now, like he's brought that back, when he gets here, he's like, yeah, I killed Zemo and I killed the Red Skull too. These men were proud, unrepentant Nazis and the leaders of a virulent gang of racists. They were, in short, a problem, one that Earth's mightiest heroes have been trying and failing to solve since World War II. But Doom did it for you in a day. And I mean, you know, when you say it like that, kind of makes you think like, hey, maybe Doom ain't so bad after all. And Doom goes on to admit that there was a bit of deception involved, but this resulted in Hydra clearing landmines, building schools, hospitals. It resulted in progress, and the Avengers, they only tried to tear that down and take it away. And really, this just reveals how Doom had set up the heroes and Zemo this whole time. Because earlier when Vision mentioned how he couldn't get through Doom's barrier, but somehow Zemo could, Doom let Zemo in, and he left a trail for the heroes to see him killing Zemo because he knew they couldn't resist telling the world the truth. And Doom is still able to spin it in a way that makes the heroes look bad, because had they not interfered, Doom would have still had Hydra being put to use for a positive means. But now that's no longer possible and it's the hero's fault. And Doom's just like, that's okay, cause I'm gonna clean it up. Because Doom is wisdom, Doom is power, Doom is prosperity. As he reaches out to this woman who we've seen a number of times throughout this story, with her child. With her more or less being the face of the general public, and it's like now with Doom reaching out to her, she says, and only Doom can save us. So now it's like Doom is starting to win the people over. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.